You saw the title. You know why we're here. Today we're going to be talking about some of Anthony Fantano, aka the Needle Drop's worst reviews ever. And of course, all of this is going to be in my opinion. Also, before you comment,
why do you care so much about another guy's opinion, dude? It's just his opinion.
or anything like that, I don't. I like his videos, I think he's a good reviewer, and I know it's just his opinion, but I just want to have a discussion about some music. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of his worst reviews. We're going to start off with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus. We got a 2-for-1 from Kanye West. With My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, this actually might be Anthony Fantano's most disliked video because he gave this album a 6 out of 10. Now, I'm not the biggest Kanye fan, but I think this is a little bit low when this album has so many hit songs on it. You got songs like Power, All of the Lights, Monster, Runaway, and so many more. So many fan favorite classic songs. And then you also got Hell of a Life and Dark Fantasy, which are some of my personal favorites. I think the production on this album is amazing. I think Kanye had some really good rapping on this album. And of course, Kanye brought in some great artisan features, so I'm pretty surprised that Anthony gave this such a low review. And I also threw Yeezus on here because he gave it a 5, and I didn't even watch this one recently for this video. I just think it's weird. I mean, that just seems like the type of music you would like, so that's very surprising. But I had to mention these two albums because these are pretty controversial and everyone's very upset about them. Personally, I'm not super passionate about Kanye albums, but one thing I am passionate about is 17 by XXXTentacion. Now, I was like 16 when this album came out, so obviously I related to it and listened to it a lot more then than I do now. And Anthony Fantano gave this album a 2. So his main complaint about this album is that nothing profound was said. And I can agree, nothing profound was really said on this album. Most of the songs didn't really have very deep songwriting or very deep meanings, but I think the musical aspect was pretty solid. Songs like F Love had amazing melodies, and Revenge is my favorite X song of all time. And in my opinion, I think Revenge had some really good writing, at least compared to every other song on the album. This album had hit songs like Jocelyn Flores and Everybody Dies in Their Nightmares, and those two songs honestly inspired a whole wave of like SoundCloud emo rappers that use Shiloh Dynasty samples or similar samples. And I think if you have that much influence, you're clearly doing something somewhat different or impactful to a younger generation. He had very catchy melodies and flows on songs like Orlando, and Anthony was talking about how bad the lyrics were on this one. I don't think they were great, but were they 2 out of 10 bad? I don't think so. And when I was 16, songs like Depression and Obsession were very deep to me, so obviously this is resonating with a much different audience than it is with Anthony, who was probably like a 30-year-old man at the time. I don't know. So yeah, I think 2 out of 10 is a little too low. I mean, I could understand him giving it maybe a 4 or a 5 or a 6, but yeah, 2 out of 10 seems kind of low. And since we're on the theme of emo rappers that passed away after Anthony made reviews on them, next up we have Come Over When You're Sober by Lil Peep, which got a not good. So when I first heard Lil Peep, I didn't really even like his music, and it kind of had to take some time to grow on me. And also, I can totally get why someone's not gonna like his music. It's clearly not for everyone. But I think his review was a little bit overly harsh, maybe. Now, I definitely don't think it's Lil Peep's best album, but to say this album was not good and had no merit was a little bit extreme. My personal favorite project from Peep is Crybaby. I think that's one of his best projects. He was saying things like how Lil Peep was fantasizing depression, which I don't think is true. I mean, the man was literally, strung out on drugs all the time and passed away from an overdose, so clearly he had some issues. And he also said he doesn't know how people can identify with it, which is really weird because I think, of course, maybe he can't identify with it, which makes perfect sense, but I'm sure all the other kids who were his age, like 19 or 20, doing drugs and depressed because of the internet, could relate to this album a lot more than he could. Again, I totally get not liking it, but I think Lil Peep's vocals at least have some merit to them. I think some of the beats had some merit to them. I think Save That Shit was a really good song. Awful Things really grew on me. So I think if anything, this album could have got maybe a 2 out of 10, a 1 out of 10, but a not good was a little bit excessive. Next up on our list, we have Hypochondriac by Breakins, which got a 5 out of 10. So the only gripe that he had with this album was the songwriting and the lyrics. Now, I think his main issue with the lyrics was how much ego was imbued into the lyrics, how egotistical and high and mighty he was coming off. But I'm not gonna lie, me and Breakins are the same age, right? And if I was as good at making music as he was and had the fan base he did, I'd have an ego too. I can't lie. He kind of picked out a bunch of lyrics here and there from different songs and kind of portrayed the whole album as if they were all bad lyrics. And of course, the album wasn't the greatest in terms of songwriting, but I think the majority of the lyrics were not nearly as bad as he made them out to be. And I guess a lot of the songs come across more serious serious, so maybe he wouldn't want to hear egotistical lines on those songs. But then he also ragged on the song Caffeine, which was clearly just a fun song. It seemed like he was having a lot more fun with it. Some people were so upset about this review that he had to make a follow-up video called Lyrics Can Ruin an Album or something like that, in which he basically said that bad lyrics can indeed ruin an album. And I can totally get not liking the lyrics. However, I don't think that can bring the album down, let's say 5 points. Let's pretend that the lyrics were perfect and this album was a 10 out of 10. I don't think he can bring it down that many points. He didn't have a single other gripe though, so assuming the lyrics were good, would it be a 10 out of 10? Who knows? But since lyrics were the only thing he was upset about, I think the album should have at least gotten like a 6 or a 7 because the production was amazing, the vocals were amazing, and of course there's bias because Breakins is one of my favorite artists, but I think he could have given this album a little bit more love, especially since he's into the more experimental type of music. And since we're on the topic of bad lyrics, we're going to talk about Lil Pump's self-titled album, which Anthony Fantano gave a 7. Now this is the only album on this list that is on here because the rating is so high. Anthony basically acknowledged in the review that this album is for fun, which clearly it is, and he was talking about how he can appreciate fun songs that have their time in place. And while I agree with all of that, I don't think this album, even as a fun album, was worth giving a 7 out of 10. Even though the lyrics were fun, a lot of it was still very mediocre. You can have fun lyrics and not be mediocre. For example, Babytron, I think, has a lot of fun lyrics, but he's also extremely creative with how he raps and his metaphors and all things like that. So yeah, this was a really high review. So to give Lil Pump a 7 and to rag on Breakins and give his album a 5 for bad lyrics is a little weird to me. I've never revisited this album when I want to listen to a fun project, so it's kind of weird just hearing that he gave this album a 7, especially when I tell you what other albums he's given a 7, so you can kind of reference how good a 7 is coming from him. Anthony has given Astro World by Travis Scott a 7. He's given After Hours by The Weeknd a 7. He's given Die Lit by Playboi Carti a 7. He's given Currents by Tame Impala a 7. He's given Let's Start Here by Lil Yachty a 7. And here are some albums that he gave a 6. He gave Wolf by Tyler the Creator a 6. 2014 Forest Hill Drives by J. Cole got a 6, and I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside by Earl Sweatshirt got a 6. I think all of these albums are much better than the Lil Pump album, so it's just kind of weird and surprising this album ranks so high. Maybe he was joking, I don't know, he is quite the memer. The next album I have on my list is What Could Possibly Go Wrong by Dominic Fike, which Anthony gave a 4. Now I didn't really understand his issues with this album. He said a lot of the songs sounded like demos and that none of the ideas were finished. However, when I first heard this album, I kind of split the songs into two different categories. One category was more polished pop songs that seemed like they were intended for the radio, and the other category was more experimental, maybe not so cleanly mixed songs that were more fun and adventurous and not as basic. Some of the pop songs I'm referring to could be Why, Vampire, Chicken Tenders, Cancel Me, and songs like that. Again, there's a little bit of bias here because I'm a huge Dominic Fike fan, but 4? I don't think this album deserves a 4, man. Come on, a 6, a 7 maybe. Personally, I give it maybe a 9. I really enjoyed this album. But yeah, he hated on songs like Good Game and Superstar Shit. Good Game, for example, he said was too much like a demo and didn't really feel complete, even though I think this is a great, very chill song. You know, he was hating on the vocal delivery, but I think it was good. He also said he couldn't remember any of the melodies, but the melody of this song to me is very memorable. I think it's really catchy, and I think it's really chill and vibey, which is totally what the song's going for. Overall, I think this album is much more deserving than just a 4. Next up, we have Cherry Bomb by Tyler the Creator, which received a 3 out of 10. Now, I understand that this album had a lot of hate and a lot of controversy, and Tyler even said that he had to make one more album that was really good, or else he thought all of his fans would turn on him. And despite this album having some of Tyler's lowest lows, I think it also had some of his highest highs. For example, Smuckers is a legendary song that I think everybody can like. It has Okaga CA and Two Seater, which I think are some of Tyler's best ever produced songs, some of my favorite instrumentals from him, some of my favorite features, melodies, and all things like that. And then you also have songs like Blow My Load, Buffalo, Effing Young, and Find Your Wings that I think are all very solid songs. So that's 7 songs I just listed, and the album is 13 tracks. The other tracks I could live without them. So this album, again, like I said, very hit or miss. So instead of a 3, I think a 5 would be more appropriate because of the ratio of good to bad songs, again, in my opinion. I do agree that overall this album isn't like a great album conceptually, or it's not very well rounded, but I think because of how mixed it was with good and bad songs, I think it's a 5 is a good score for it. Let me know if you agree with that in the comments. That's how I've always viewed the album. And finally on my list, I have Stoney by Post Malone, which Anthony Fantano gave a not good. and I didn't even watch the video. I just saw the thumbnail while I was, you know, picking videos for this list. I think it's Post Malone's best album. I think it's really good in my opinion. He has songs like Fall Apart, which is like one of his biggest songs of all time. He has Go Flex. He has White Iverson. He has that one song with 2 Chainz. He has Yours Truly, Austin Post. He has Hit This Hard, which is a good song. A lot of different genres, and, you know, like pop songs, rap songs, maybe country. I don't know what you call it. A lot of cool little areas he dips his toes into, and I think it's really fun. Oh, Deja Vu with Justin Bieber. Come on, that's a good one. You might not want to admit it, but that's a good song. I think this is Post Malone's best album. I really enjoy this album, and a not good is just straight up disrespectful, you know? If you don't like it, just give it like a 2 maybe. You know, appreciate that Post Malone has at least good vocals maybe, or that there was good production, or maybe there was one good feature that gave the album at least a 1 out of 10. I don't know. Yeah, apparently he also called Post Malone a one-hit wonder. Again, I didn't watch the video, but I saw that in the comments, which I just think is really funny when he's had multiple hit songs. Like, he had Sunflower, he had Rockstar, he had, I think Go Flex counts as a hit, Fall Apart, White Iverson. What are some other Post Malone hits? Let's see. He has a lot of hits. Oh yeah, Circles. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Wow, I forgot about that one. Congratulations, I forgot about that one. Better Now. A lot of hits, man. He has a lot of hits. So yeah, these are some of my least favorite Anthony Fantano reviews, and I think most people can agree with these. Can agree with the ratings I gave them, which is just slightly higher than his at the very least. Again, of course, I know it's just his opinion, and I just wanted to have a discussion about albums that I like. Let me know in the comments some of your least favorite Anthony Fantano reviews. Let me know if you disagree or you agree with me, and let me know why. Don't be mean or be dumb and just say dumb things in the comments. Leave a little explanation and we can have a fulfilling and fruitful discussion. Anyways, transition. Did you know that I released some t-shirts? I like them. I think they're cool. If you want to check them out, I'll have the link in the description. Make sure to buy one if you like them. I'd really appreciate it. It'd be a really cool way to support me and my channel. See you guys later. Bye.